Over the last several years, I've had the pleasure of visiting with Andrew Murray Wines, aka Rabble Wine Company from Paso Robles, a few times at the California Winemakers Tasting, once in Los Angeles, another time in Pasadena, and I was really blown away by their Amore Fati line, particularly their syrah. I think it's one of the nicest syrahs coming out of Paso Robles currently. Andrew was nice enough to have me up to the winery, their new winery, and we hung out, tasted wines, and he showed me around. It's a wonderful undertaking of a project, and he's producing some great wines. Grab a glass, kick back, and enjoy.
Welcome to Tooth and Nail Winery. I'm Andrew Nelson. I'm a partner in Rabble Wine Company. We have 4 different brands. Tooth and Nail is our main brand, our main focus, and we're opening up a winery on 46 West. We're going to be tasting through the whole portfolio today. I'm excited to share it. So all of our packaging comes from old artwork, from public domain. We wanted something really visual, interactive, something that jumped off the shelf, maybe made you feel a little uncomfortable. You weren't quite sure what you were looking at. With Force of Nature, these are all old woodblock prints. This is Mount Vesuvius erupting over Pompeii. When you look at the label, you see the artwork, you see the varietal, but no brand name, so you're really kind of intrigued to pick it up. And once you pick it up, then you feel that heavy emboss, deboss. It's very textured, the joke that I fooled you with earlier. Right? If you can read Braille, it actually says gullible right down the middle there. Not everybody can read Braille, but it is there. And maybe on the ceiling as well.
And do me a favor, pick up like this one's really colorful.
So this is our newest, the Force of Nature Chardonnay. This is from our Santa Maria vineyard, so really cool climate. We're doing this half in stainless and then half in barrel. So it's got a little bit for everyone, a little oak on the nose and then the mouthfeel from the barrel ferment, but the finish is super crisp, clean from the barrel. Nothing traditional here about Force of Nature, right? You notice that this is in a Bordeaux bottle. Who puts a Chardonnay in a Bordeaux bottle? Some Italian producers, but you don't see it all that often from California. It's also dead leaf color, right? It's not your flint, it's not your clear glass. So it almost looks like it's in the wrong spot when it's in the Chardonnay aisle, among the other Chardonnays, you know, the Burgundy bottles with the nice white square labels. But it says Chardonnay on the bottom, so you're clear. You pick it up, you feel the texture, and once it's in your hand, ideally, you're walking up to the register. So it's really, we think just as much about the outside as the inside. So we own about 1,000 acres in between Paso Robles and Santa Maria, 4 vineyards total, which allows us to be really selective in the grapes that we're using. So we're a small winery, but with access to a lot of grapes, kind of a rare model. And then obviously we've geeked out on the labels. These are all original artwork done in the 1880s or the early 1800s by John James Audubon, so the famous naturalist here. So it's not just angry animals, you know, fighting over a rabbit or the boar defending his den. There's historical value as well. And when you see these, you know, you're not quite sure how you feel. They're violent. Your eyes catch on them and kind of evoke some emotion. That's really what we're going for. We want to push what people are comfortable with, but not just from shock value, it's historical value as well, right? It's Audubon. Rabble, so rabble is an Old English word. It means the disorderly mob, and I think it fits us very well. A rabble rouser, you know, pushes what the public is comfortable with.
Right.
So our portfolio is Rabble Wine Company, and then the winery here is the Tooth and Nail Winery. When I was in college, I went to school here at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. You have to apply declared. So I was an ag business major, studied wine and vit, really wanted to become a winemaker. I worked at Edna Valley on the Central Coast in San Luis. Then I went to Greece and made Retsina. Are you familiar?
I know Retsina, yeah.
It's like a blend of Chardonnay and Listerine.
Right, exactly.
Pine sap, fermented white wine. Awesome cultural experience and loved being there and the food. Didn't learn a ton on the winemaking side. Came back, I worked for the Firestone Brewery. I was the night brewer, 9 to 5:30 at night for about a year. Then I went to Four Vines, again, really cellar and winemaking focused, but the winemaker there, Christian Tigi, really instilled the attention to the vineyard, right? You put your energy into the vineyard and then you just don't mess it up in the cellar. Whereas if you neglect the vineyard, now you're dealing with all kinds of problems. Then moved up to Napa. I was a grape buyer for BV, Sterling, Rosenblum, Acacia, some of the Diageo brands in Napa and Sonoma. Really getting into the clonal selection and the regions of Carneros and Petaluma, Sonoma, Napa, just really geeking out on, okay, why is this vineyard worth, you know, $10,000 a ton and a vineyard 5 minutes down the road, 2,000? Is this really quality driven? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's branding. But that was really interesting to me. Then I moved into vineyard management. So I was managing the northern Napa properties, really in the operations. Okay, what does it take to grow grapes for a George de Latour or, you know, a Hewitt? This is our Stasis Pinot Noir from our Murmur vineyard, 2011. What's unique about this, you look at the color, it's pretty dark, right? It's all the 828 clone. So it's kind of a unique clone of Pinot. Winemakers will call it the Syrah clone. Basically it has a poor berry set, so it doesn't germinate very well. Lots of missing berries within the cluster, so you'll get good sunlight, better airflow through the cluster. I like it because at this site in Santa Maria, it's foggy, it's windy, and it's wet. So powdery mildew is an issue. So this open cluster with better airflow, it just creates cleaner fruit. And then I think you get a little bit thicker skin and you see this real dark, it almost doesn't look like Pinot. Quite dark, right? From that thicker skin. On the nose, it's earthy, dark fruit, kind of brooding, but then on the palate, it's bright, like Bing cherry, layers of flavor. And this really, it's our higher end Chardonnay and Pinot. A little bit more elegant, a little less aggressive on the labeling than Force of Nature and Tooth and Nail. Our winemaker, Robert Henson, worked for Michael Michaud at Santa Cruz, really delving into the Chardonnay and the Pinot, and I think this is one of our best wines. Okay, so Force of Nature Zinfandel. So now coming up to Paso, right? We tasted Pinot in Santa Maria, now coming north to Paso Robles. Paso known for big, jammy, higher alcohol zins, right? With this, we're kind of going in a different direction. These are the first couple blocks to ripen up. I compare our zin more to a Primitivo style. It's bright. It's almost the same color as the Pinot, right? On the nose, I get the fruit, but then I get lilac, lavender, purple flowers. Real pretty. And then on the palate, it delivers. It's not thin at all. It's juicy, spicy. It's got that peppery finish, but it's not over extracted. And I think that it's been refreshing, you know, literally and metaphorically, to have this in the market. I love those big zins from time to time, but I think people are starting to gravitate more to this more balanced. You know, you can drink the whole bottle on your own. It's 14.7 alcohol, which sounds high. Paso Robles is pretty common to see stuff in the 16s. Force of Nature Tempranillo.
That's funny you're talking about, you know, wine writing or descriptions. At one point, and I forget what it was, there was something, it might have been a Tempranillo Rioja, and I said it smelled a little bit like a cowboy's chaps.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I mean, that's that dusty leather, right?
Right, exactly. Right.
So this is my favorite wine out of the whole portfolio. Tempranillo, right? Spanish grape. We planted it in Paso Robles, and we're really going for that varietal characteristic. So as the Tempranillo ripens, that will go away. That dusty, earthy leather, the cowboy chaps that you're talking about. You can still make a good wine, but it doesn't smell like Tempranillo, and the acid drops off precipitously. Like very quickly, you'll have no acidity. So with this, we're really focused on the picking day. And it shows when you smell this, it's like dusty leather.
Yeah.
Smoky, a little bit of meatiness, dried leaves, and then the fruit. Force of Nature Cabernet. So if my mom wants me to bring something to dinner for a big group, this is my go-to. It's got lots of fruit, but big structure. So, you know, my little brother who doesn't drink wine likes this, but my uncle, who says he's a wine writer, he's kind of a wine writer, likes it as well. Same style, it's the same vineyard. This is all from our Mossfire Ranch, kind of in the foothills of Paso Robles, so up off of the flatland, a little cooler area than where the Tooth and Nail wines come from. Lots of fruit on the nose. The thing that we really talk about with the cab is kind of staying away from that candied fruit. You can get overripe really quickly, but then the opposite side is vegetal, right? So somewhere in there is the balance. That dark plum, a little bit of that dustiness. And then, you know, we talk about value a lot. There's lots of good wine out there, there's fun packaging, but it's tough to find something that delivers at good pricing. So we sell it for $23, $22.50 on the website. You can find it in the market in that range. I think for, you know, early 20s, it really delivers. Okay, now we'll do the Possessor. This is a cab blend. It's 70% Cabernet and then basically equal parts Syrah, Petit Syrah, and Malbec, about 10% each. But from a very different site than the Force of Nature. So Tooth and Nail, we're right on the flatland and it's much hotter, so you get bigger fruit flavors. The artwork on this is an original artwork done in the 1830s by John James Audubon. This is two red-tailed hawks fighting over the rabbit to become the sole possessor. So Audubon would go out, he would draw animals struggling to survive, and then he would write an account of what he'd seen that day, and that's where we get our names. Kind of fun interaction. But with the Possessor, more complexity than the Force of Nature is a great Cabernet, but with the Cab blend and the Tolliver Ranch, this different site, there's so much more going on. The Syrah brings some of that meatiness. Petit Syrah, chocolate, coffee. The Malbec actually brings the acidity. That's where that juiciness comes from. This is in barrel a little bit longer, about 16 months on this, whereas the Force of Nature reds are about a year, a little under. I get into the mouthfeel. More than anything, it's lush, it's round. The finish, you know, it starts dark and then finishes with that like bright, almost cherry finish.
And there's layers,
goes into the
layers
pepper.
of flavor.
Yeah. So this is my go-to. Like, this is what I drink.
Right.
If I'm gonna drink a bottle, I'll drink the Possessor. Tooth and Nail, the Stand. So we just tasted the Possessor from Tooth and Nail, right? Bigger, bolder, unconventional blends. Wow. This has been like the gem of the marketplace. We actually just sold out of this. We have a little bit left at the winery for wine club and people that come here. But so this is 60% Petit Syrah and 40% Syrah. Also from the Tolliver Ranch, the hottest, one of the hotter areas of Paso. I get that big Petit Syrah nose. Chocolate, coffee.
What is the big difference for you between Petit Syrah and Syrah? The
tannin structure is the biggest thing for me. Petit Syrah will have that real angular, sharp tannin, whereas Syrah can be much more lush. And although, like, the Petit Syrah is kind of the secret sauce. In many, many wines that are labeled 100%, they have some Petit in there. Which is fine. It gives it that darker complexity on the nose and a little more structure, but usually 100% Petit Syrah, it's super drying. It's sharp, angular tannin, and it needs lots of time in barrel and then lots of time in bottle to mellow out. So really, the 40% Syrah in this is more for mouthfeel than anything else. Because when I smell this, like, I get ready for a punch in the mouth. This is a big nose, right? And it's a 2012. It's not an aged wine at all. But when you taste it, it's lush, it's round, like velvety, and good acidity.
When you look at other players, other vineyards in your hood, Paso, is there anyone else that's doing 3 different levels? You know, 3 different, well, is that correct to say levels?
Yeah, so we actually have 4.
Okay.
Oftentimes they're called like second labels, right? So they'll have their main brand and then they'll have a second label. And you see that is pretty common. And basically that is, okay, we need an outlet for wines that don't make the cut. With what's unique about us is that they're truly 4 different brands. And then we've tiered them in pricing based on where the vineyard's at, the cost of farming, and then how quickly we're releasing the wines. So force of nature, see the least amount of oak, 10 to 12 months. We make them real varietal driven. We release them quick and they're gone within a year.
Ready to drink.
Exactly.
Right.
Tooth and nail sees a little bit more barrel time. We'll do some geeky blending, really get the mouthfeel together. That's kind of our second tier. Stasis, higher end Chardonnay Pinot. The current release is the 11. We were just tasting the 12s 2 nights ago just to see if we're getting close. These we really take our time with. More time in barrel, more time in bottle, and then the blending. And then a more fatigued, we do a couple hundred 6-packs every year. We've tiered the tastings in such a way that there really is something for everyone. You want to go varietal driven, brighter style, drink them now, 20 to 22 price point wines. Okay, here's Force of Nature. You like bigger, bolder blends, right? Which seem to be quite popular right now. Tooth and nail's where you're at. Okay, you like high-end Pinot, Chardonnay, real elegant style, and then cool climate Syrah, Grenache, geeky stuff, you know, whole cluster fermented Pinot. All right, now we have this reserved here. Or let's say you want to do the whole portfolio and just kind of take a journey through, that's there as well. So I really think that there's going to be something for everyone. This is the stand. Colored peccary is the type of animal. I was just in Arkansas, so I call it the razorback. Very cool climate Syrah. We picked this at the end of November. It's ridiculously late. The joke was if we waited a few more weeks, we could be the first vintage of the next year, like beat everybody to the market, you know, skip 11 altogether. So essentially it's a late harvest, right? And you get that on the nose, but there's no sugar, there's no sweetness whatsoever because the site is so cool climate. So on the nose, I get smoky bacon, green olive juice, grilled fig, like big brooding fruit. And then you'd expect the palate to be equally aggressive, but that hang time has just rounded out the tannin. And because it's such a cool climate site, the acid is there and the alcohol's low. Yeah, so this is from our Murmur vineyard. We're in Santa Maria. We're about 2 miles south of the city of Santa Maria and 12 miles from the ocean. So it's a very foggy site. It's windy, it's wet, it's cold. We talked about the diurnal temperature difference in Paso, which builds that flavor development. It's always cold in Santa Maria. So it's just kind of a grind to see, okay, can we get this ripe? Amor fati means love of fate, right? And really speaks to how long we've got to hang the fruit out there. It's kind of out of our control. November, hopefully it doesn't rain, and so there's kind of an element of, okay, let's hope that everything works out because we don't have the control over it. We've planted the tops of the hillsides, so kind of the first areas that emerge from the fog with the Syrah. Just a little bit more heating units, ideally even just a day or two can be the difference between rain at the end of November.